Hello everybody, welcome back to another game collection video. This video I'm going to show you my Super Nintendo Entertainment System collection, and I'm also going to show you some additions I have made to my PlayStation 2, my Nintendo Entertainment System, and my Atari 2600 collections. I will give you a little bit of history, my history with the Super Nintendo, and that is that I have basically no history with the Super Nintendo. I never played Super Nintendo until I was an adult, basically. Yeah, I don't think I ever did. I remember allegedly way back when one of my friends installed a Super Nintendo emulator on my computer with Super Mario All-Stars, but really that is the only history I have with the Super Nintendo. It wasn't until I was an adult that I got one, and I wanted to get one for Mario Paint, because I'm a big fan of Vinesauce, and Mario Paint kinda is a part of the Vinesauce canon, and I was like, hey, Mario Paint looks really fun. It's basically a glorified Microsoft Paint, but I don't know, there's just something about it. Speaking of Mario Paint, though, I do remember playing around with Mario Paint Composer on my computer growing up. That was kind of like it was a program somebody made where they basically just recreated the Mario Paint music composer, but for Windows essentially. And so I played that a lot, and that was one thing I really liked watching on YouTube. Other than YouTube poops back in the day, I would also watch listen to music that people made in Mario Paint Composer for PC. But yeah, like I said, not a whole lot of history with Super Nintendo. I am also going to show off my Game Boy and Game Boy Color collections as well, and I also did not have Game Boy or Game Boy Color games growing up except for Pokemon Gold. Pokemon Gold was the only Game Boy or Game Boy Color game I had growing up, and I played that quite a bit, but I never completed it. I also really did not know how to play Pokemon games back in the day. I had Cyndaquil, and that was the only Pokemon I ever leveled up. And so when I got past a few gyms, the game started to become impossible because Cyndaquil was the only Pokemon, the only good Pokemon I had. So yeah, once you get past a certain number of gyms, they start throwing high-level Pokemons at you, and you just get utterly decimated if you don't have more than one Pokemon that you've leveled up. But yeah, I'm going to show those games off as well. The Game Boy Advance was the only Game Boy. That was my introduction to Game Boy growing up and stuff like that. So, but I'll first show you my Super Nintendo collection. I don't have any of these games in any particular order. I just grabbed them. There's really not enough games to warrant putting them in alphabetical order or anything. Just kind of just showing you in a random order. So let's get started. The first game I have here on my stack is Pilot Wings. I don't know anything about this game other than it is kind of the predecessor to Pilot Wings 64, and I have not played it. The back kind of has some torn labeled issues, but that's not that big of a deal. I also still have the price tag on it, even though I've owned this game for a while. So yeah, there is Pilot Wings. The next game I have is Kirby's Avalanche. And I also still have the price tag on this one. You might even be able to read it. I got it from, I think, Retroid in Winston-Salem. Yeah, Retroid Games. And I wasn't aware of it when I bought it, but this is actually a puzzle game. And I can't remember the name of it. But this game is really similar to another puzzle game that the 8-bit guy recently did a video on. When I mean recently, like within the last 6 months, I think he did a video where he basically wrote a version of that puzzle game for a certain computer. I can't remember what the game is called or anything, but this, like I said, this is actually a puzzle game. I was kind of hoping for like an actual Kirby platformer game when I bought it, but oh well. I'm not really that big into puzzle games. But there is Kirby's Avalanche. One interesting thing I will say about this game, and this is a lot more common in Super Nintendo games than in NES games, is that you actually have sound recordings, like actual samples of like people singing or talking or whatever, and when you boot this game up, it says Kirby's Avalanche, and yeah, that's a lot more common in Super Nintendo games than NES games. The NES has a few cases of it, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 Manhattan Project and Wheel of Fortune. They have some voice samples in those games, but yeah, anyway, there's Kirby's Avalanche. The next one I have played quite a bit of. This is Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. And yeah, it's this is really, I would say, like the first really good Legend of Zelda game. This is a must-own game in my opinion. This is what really kind of, I don't know, like, I don't know how to put it into words. This is the 2D Zelda game, other than like Link's Awakening for the Game Boy, but I don't know if this game came out before or after Link's Awakening, but this game is kind of in the same style as Link's Awakening. The NES Zelda games are very different, and yeah, I haven't beaten this game, but I've gotten pretty far into it. And yeah, like I said, it's a must-own game. It is just a good romp. So yeah, there is Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. The next game, which is probably my favorite game on the system, is Mario Paint. And I do have the mouse and the mouse pad, but I will show that off in a different video when I show off my consoles and peripherals. This is the player's choice version, as you can see by the ribbon there. I think that means player's choice. But this is, like I said in the intro, kind of like a Microsoft Paint program, but it has a music composer in it. And you can kind of also make like flip note animations in it as well. I spent a lot of time with this game. When actually, I said I was an adult when I got my Super Nintendo, but it was actually my senior year of high school, which I was 18, so technically I was an adult, but I had a portable TV, and there was a playground. There's a playground next to a school that my friends and I would go hang out at all the time. And one time I brought my Super Nintendo with Mario Paint and my portable TV, and we sat out in front of the school, and I plugged the TV and the Super Nintendo into like the nearest outlet that was outside, and we played video games outside. And this was the game we played. What we would do is that we would not copy, but we would follow Bob Ross videos, like episodes of Bob Ross, and we would paint along with him in Mario Paint, and that is a really fun thing to do with Mario Paint. I would consider this a must-have game. Yeah, and definitely if you follow along with Bob Ross, that's a really fun way to play this game. There's also a bunch of mini games in it, like swatting flies and stuff, so there's Mario Paint. The next game I have 2 copies of. One of them has a working save battery, and one of them actually has no battery in it at all, because typically I open up my cartridges to clean them, and I noticed that the save battery was missing in one of the copies of this game. This is the prominent Super Nintendo game. This is the one that everybody's familiar with, and it is Super Mario World. There is one copy, and there is the other copy, and I can't remember. I think it's this copy that doesn't have the save battery in it. This copy does. So, what's my opinion on Super Mario World? This is actually, I gotta say, this is far from my favorite Mario game. The mechanics are cool in it. I just really do not like the level design. I hate the ghost houses. I do not find the ghost houses to be fun at all. I think Yoshi, the introduction of Yoshi, and Yoshi being in this game just really lifts this game up, in my opinion. I hate the cape power-up. I think the Tanuki suit, or the raccoon tail from Super Mario Bros. 3, is so much better than the cape power-up. I just do not like the cape power-up in this game at all. I know how to do it. I know how to use it. It just always seems so inconsistent to me. And I think the level design in Super Mario Bros. 1 and Super Mario Bros. 3 is just so much better than in this game. But this game really kind of modernizes, in a sense, the 2D side-scrolling Mario platformer game. So there is Super Mario World. This game also has a massive ROM hacking community, probably the biggest ROM hacking community. And I do like to play ROM hacks of this game. But yeah, let's go on to the next game. The next game is another player's choice game, and it is SimCity. I almost thought I said Sin City, but it's SimCity. It is a city management game, and I have not played it much at all, actually. I recently just got this for $8, as you can see there, from Summit Outpost in Wilkesboro, North Carolina. It's a really good condition cartridge, and I really like city management games like City Skylines, so I got this game. And I also really need, I feel like I need to fill out my Super Nintendo collection, because it is considerably smaller than most other collections I have. So I saw that there was a game for $8, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna get it. So I got it. Moving on. The next game I have, I also got from Summit Outpost, and I'm just going to show it to you. It's Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time, and I got it for $15, but there's a catch. If you're familiar with this game, you'll know that this game usually goes for around $40 to $50. So how did I get it for 15? We'll take a really hard look at this cartridge. Look at the screws. And actually, let me get SimCity back and look at the screws on SimCity. They're metal, and the screws here are plastic. That's one red flag right there, but take a look at the back. Uh-oh, there's no sticker. And uh-oh, what happened to the Nintendo logo right there? Yeah, this game is a bootleg. This is a bootleg cartridge. And in fact, when I tried to dump this game, it took me three attempts to actually successfully dump it. By the way, I dump Super Nintendo games with the Retroad, which I showed off in a previous video. It's really easy to dump games, Super Nintendo games with the Retroad, but yeah, the first 2 times I tried dumping this cartridge, it gave me bad checksum errors. So yeah, this is definitely super bootleg reproduction cartridge. It is not real. It is fake. But yeah, there is Turtles in Time. The next game I have is the first Super Scope game, and actually you can see my complete in-box Super Scope right up there on top of the shelf. And this game is Metal Combat. Like I said, it's a Super Scope game. I still have the price tag on it, although I've owned it for a while. And I have not played it, but I did get this at Ori's Game Corner in Boone, North Carolina, which is also where I got my Super Scope. And it's also where I got the next game, Yoshi's Safari, which is another Super Scope game. I have not played either of these games. This game is, from my understanding, kind of like a Gundam game with robots and stuff, and Yoshi's Safari has something to do with Yoshi. I've not played them, so yeah, I don't know. But I'll move on. The next game is not a game at all. It is actually a peripheral, but I decided to include it in this video, and it is the Super Game Boy. This, I feel like, is also a must-have to play Game Boy and Game Boy Color games on the TV. If you play Pokemon games or some other games, you'll get really cool borders around them on the screen. Yeah, not really a game, but so I won't say much about it, but yeah, you just spoiler alert for my Game Boy Color games, but you just stick the cartridge there, and then you stick this in the Super Nintendo, and you can play your Game Boy and Game Boy Color games on your TV. So yeah, there is Super Game Boy. Oh, I'll show you the back as well. There's the back. Basically a big old cartridge. The next game is my most valuable game in my entire game collection. Not just Super Nintendo, but my entire game collection. And just by saying that, you might already know what it is. It is a genuine North American version of Earthbound. And I'll actually get it out of the case so you can see it. It's Earthbound, and I actually have never played it. And I do want to play it soon, probably on my gaming channel. And yeah, I'm a big fan of the video game, Angry Video Game Nerd, AVGN, and he did an episode on Earthbound, and I I want to watch that video so bad, but I do not want to be spoiled about anything in this game. I do not want any spoilers at all, so I have to wait to watch that video by AVGN. But yeah, I got this several years ago. It is also the most I had ever spent on a game. I bought this at Video Game World in Huntersville, and I bought it for $200, but it was worth it because now the game goes for like $400. So yeah, there is Earthbound. You'll notice I have it in this case because it's valuable. Very valuable. Next Super Nintendo game is actually a collection of games, 3 games, and it is Super Mario All-Stars. This has, actually it's 4 games. 4. It has remastered versions of Super Mario Bros. 1, Super Mario Bros. 2 Japan, or Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, Super Mario Bros. 2 USA, and then Super Mario Bros. 3. And especially when it comes to Super Mario Bros. 2 USA and Super Mario Bros. 3, this game, I feel like this is the definitive way of playing Super Mario Bros. 3, especially because you can actually save your game on this version. You cannot save your game on Super Mario Bros. 3. If you have to quit and come back later to the game, you just have to keep your NES on and hope that your NES does not crash. Because Super Mario Bros. 3 is a long game, so yeah. On top of just better graphics and better audio, this also has a save feature for all 4 games. And because of that reason, I have to say this is the definitive way to play Super Mario Bros. 3 and Super Mario Bros. 2 USA. The next game is Super Mario Kart. I can't remember where I got this game, but I think I got it fairly recently, but I just can't remember where I got it. This is the first Mario Kart game ever, and it's Mario Kart. It's not aged the best at all. It uses, I think it's mode 7 to give that 3D perspective of the game. And probably the biggest thing I don't like about it is that, just like with Super or Mario Kart 64, if you get anywhere below 4th place, you have to retry the track, which I don't like. I like, Double Dash and beyond, where even if you get 8th place or 16th place, you can still move on, and that kind of that big loss is counted to your overall score. So I prefer that. The Rainbow Road on this one, I want to kind of talk about Rainbow Road because I feel like Rainbow Road on Mario Kart 64 is such a joke because there's guardrails on the entire track, and on this one, Rainbow Road does not have guardrails. So the Rainbow Road is challenging like it's supposed to be. Yeah, but there's Mario Kart, Super Mario Kart. To be honest, it's probably my least favorite Mario Kart game of the entire Mario Kart series, but it was the first one and it was early. It was a Super Nintendo game, which is impressive. Next game is Star Fox, and I have not played it, but it uses the FX chip, which was kind of the 3D rendering technology before Nintendo 64. And yeah, I can't really say much because I haven't played it really at all, but if you like polygons, you'll love this game. Anyway, there is Star Fox. Moving on. The next game is Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. This actually has almost nothing in common with Super Mario World. I feel like they just put Super Mario World 2 up there to sell this game. This game also, from my understanding, uses the FX chip. The art style in this game is really cool. It's like a hand-drawn style. Kind of like Yoshi's Story from Nintendo 64, where it has like a handcrafted art style. That's kind of a continuation of this game's hand-drawn art style, and they use the FX chip to pull that off. This is a pretty cool game. I have not beaten it, but I've played a little bit of it, and it's really cool. It really kind of turns the 2D Mario platformer on its head and just introduces so many new things. The final Super Nintendo game before we move on to Game Boy and Game Boy Color games, which you might guess what it is by seeing that my Super Scope is missing from the top of the shelf, and it is Super Scope 6. And I have not played it, but because I got it complete in box, it is the only Super Nintendo game that I have the manual for, as you can see. But that will do it for Super Nintendo games, so let's move on to Game Boy and Game Boy Color. Alright, I'm going to kind of include Game Boy and Game Boy Color games in like combined because I don't really have them separated, but we'll just start off with kind of a peripheral, and it is an action replay with a button on top. This is kind of like a Game Shark or a Game Genie, but for the Game Boy and maybe Game Boy Color. I don't know actually which one it's for, but yeah, I actually got this for free at Tolly's, which was an old, it's no longer there, but it was in Jefferson or West Jefferson in North Carolina, but I got this for free because we were trying to test it, but we couldn't figure out how to use it. So we didn't know if it actually worked or not, and I have not tried using it again. So there is the action replay. You stick this end in the Game Boy, and then you stick the game up here with the label facing out, I am pretty sure. But there's the action replay. Action replays actually still exist. In fact, I have an action replay for my Nintendo 3DS, where you can just kind of cheat the games, just like get items and stuff, whatever you want to. But moving on. Next game is Kirby's Tilt and Tumble, and this is actually a special cartridge because it is shaped differently. That's because it has a kind of, I don't know what they're called. I almost said potentiometer, but that's not actually what a potentiometer is. Basically, you tilt, you stick it in your Game Boy, and you can tilt the game to control Kirby. It's kind of like a marble game, like Marble Madness or Marble Blast Ultra, if you will, but in Game Boy Color form, and you use motion. It's basically a motion control game, but it's really cool. Next game, I believe, is a Game Boy game, and it is Game & Watch Gallery, with a little bit of a torn label right there, but the Game & Watch Gallery series is really cool. I think it's a must-own series for the Game Boy and Game Boy Color because it's a compilation of mini games, sort of, from the very old Game & Watch handhelds that Nintendo came out with when they were still kind of a toy company, when they were basically just making arcade machines before they came out with the NES. Yeah, it's you can spend a lot of time playing just the mini games, trying to get high scores. Kind of what video games were all about back in the day. Next game is Best of the Best of the Best, Best of the Best Championship, I think, Karate. This actually has a NES version as well. I have not played it though. I have not played the NES version or this version. So we'll move on. Next one is True Lies, and it is based on the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger in it. This is an LJN game, and I don't know anything about the movie or this game, but so we will move on. Next game, I believe, is a Game Boy Color game, and it is Mission Impossible, and it has a different kind of design to it as well. Almost like Kirby Tilt and Tumble, but this part doesn't quite stick out as much. And yeah, kind of back when electronics had like clear see-through plastic, back when that was a thing that was popular, which I kind of miss. It was really cool to just be able to see inside of your controllers and systems and that kind of thing, see the insides of them. Next game is the ultimate Game Boy game. It is the game that is what sold the Game Boy. It is Tetris. This is a really good port of Tetris, and it's just, I mean, what can I say about this game that hasn't already been said? Just a lot of fun. Good old black and white Game Boy fun. So there is Tetris. Yep, the game that sold millions. This was the Halo 3 for the Game Boy. If Halo 3 was what sold the Xbox 360, this is the game that sold the Game Boy. The next game is The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. I got this from a friend about 2 years ago, I would say. I have not played it, but I have played and completed the Switch version. And based on that, I can say that this is an awesome, awesome game. Yeah, definitely a must-own. Just really good. Really good Zelda fun. Kind of like in the style of, what's it called? A Link to the Past. Kind of what I was saying earlier when I showed that game off. Next game I have, I think might be a Game Boy Color game. No, I think it's just a Game Boy game. It is another Game & Watch Gallery game. This is the Game & Watch Gallery 3. And yeah, basically just another compilation of mini games. Just yeah, like I said, Game & Watch Gallery series is, I think, a must-own for Game Boy collectors. Next game is probably the only game that I have beaten on the Game Boy. It is Super Mario Land. And this is, this kind of came out when, I think only the first Super Mario Bros. Game, I think this came out before Super Mario Bros. 2. And this was kind of before there was really a theme or solid, like what defines a Mario game. This kind of came out before that. And because of that, this is kind of a weird game. I think it's pretty easy up until the last world, and there's only 4 worlds in this game. There's 3 levels per world, and there's only 4, so there's only like 16. No, 12. There's only 12 levels in this game. And this game, from what I understand, was not designed, not like developed by or not directed by Shigeru Miyamoto. This was directed by Gunpei Yokoi. And I think that's the other reason why this game just is kind of weird, like kind of outside what we would expect from a Super Mario game. But I do think this is a must-own. It is still really fun, and it kind of adds... There's like the submarine levels where you go, or the flying levels where you're kind of in a ship. It's kind of like a shoot 'em up game section. Whether you're in the submarine or in the plane. I think that was something that was originally intended for Super Mario Bros., but we got it in Super Mario Land. This does not have Bowser in it. I can't remember the name of the bad guy, but he's, I think, an alien, and I think he's right there where my finger is pointing. And you don't save Princess Toadstool or Princess Peach, you save Princess Daisy. This takes place in Sarasa Land, I think, which it includes the desert land and then like the Japan sort of inspired land, and yeah. Anyway, there is Super Mario Land. Like I said, kind of easy up until the last world, then all of the lives that you kind of racked up in the first 3 worlds, they all get drained on the last boss fight. Yeah, but there is Super Mario Land. The next game is the sequel to Super Mario Land, and it is Super Mario Land 2 6 Golden Coins. I think that's what it's called, 6 Golden Coins. I have not really played this game, but this is actually, from what I've heard, just it's kind of on Super Mario World levels of just expanding the Mario formula, and really this is really a pretty big game for the Game Boy. You have a world map and stuff, and then there's new power-ups in this game, like the carrot, I think, and yeah, and because this game is in black and white, when you get the fire flower, you actually get a feather on your head, because there's nothing to distinguish Fire Mario from regular Mario, except for the feather on the head. And this game also has just really good music in it, like the first game does. And Wario is actually the main villain in this game. So there is Super Mario Land 2, 6 Golden Coins. Alright, we are starting to get into the Pokemon games, really the bread and butter of Nintendo handhelds. And we're starting it off with Pokemon Red. On the back, I do have, I think, TW written, so if you are TW, if your name is, if that's your initials, I have your copy of Pokemon Red. I'm going to just go through these Pokemon games really fast because they're kind of all the same. Like I said, the only Pokemon game for the Game Boy or Game Boy Color I had growing up was Pokemon Gold. Next Pokemon game is actually Pokemon Trading Card Game with its black cartridge, and I have not really played this game at all. But there is Pokemon Trading Card Game. Just shooting through all of these Pokemon games. I keep most of my games in these plastic cases just to protect them. Next is Pokemon Special Pikachu Edition, more commonly known as Pokemon Yellow. And this is the same generation as Pokemon Red and Blue and Green, but instead of picking your starter Pokemon from picking from one of the 3 starter Pokemon, you get Pikachu instead. You're not given a choice, you're just given Pikachu, but that's kind of the difference with this game. The next game is Pokemon Gold. This is the copy I grew up with. And yeah, have a lot of good memories playing this game. I would spend a lot of time in the bathroom. I would say I gotta go do number 2, and I would just sit on the toilet for like 40 minutes straight playing this game, because that's when I could get some peace and time to myself to play this game. So if that's too much information for you, I'm sorry, but yeah, I spent a lot of time just sitting on the toilet playing this game, because that way nobody would bother me. The next game is actually the only import game that I have in my entire video game collection. The only game that is not made for United States audiences, and that is Pokemon Green. This is Pocket Monster Green, technically. I have not played it, but I have seen bits of it, and the sprite work is very different in the Japanese versions. Pokemon Green did not have I don't think it had a release outside of Japan. We did actually get Pokemon Green with Pokemon Leaf Green when that came out on the Game Boy Advance. And this is kind of one of the games that makes me want to learn Japanese. I'm kind of currently learning Spanish, but yeah, I would like to learn Spanish. I would like to become fluent in Spanish, and then at least be able to read and understand Japanese, not necessarily speak it, but just be able to kind of read it and understand it. But yeah, there is Pocket Monster Green, and I did get this from the same friend that got me Link's Awakening, as well as several other games. So yeah, there is Pokemon Leaf, or not Pokemon Leaf Green, just Pokemon Green in general. But again, did not get a release outside of Japan, I don't think, so this is kind of the only way you can get Pokemon Green. The next game is Pokemon Silver, and this kind of goes along with Pokemon Gold. This is actually my brother-in-law's copy. He gave me his Game Boy / Game Boy Color collection, because he's not really a video game collector like I am. He just gave me all of his games, and this is his copy of Pokemon Silver version. This and his Game Boy Color, I won't tell the story just because it might be private family stuff, but this kind of means a lot to him, and he gave it to me knowing that I would take good care of it. And I just told him, if you ever want to play it, I'll give it to you, because I mean, technically it's your copy, but I'm just keeping it in my collection for just to keep it safe with my other games. So yeah, there is Pokemon Silver. Next game, Pokemon Blue, with I don't even sorry, I'm really not that versed in Pokemon names. I think that's Tortoise or I'm so sorry. I'm just not that big of a Pokemon person. Not that I don't like Pokemon. I like Pokemon. I'm just not that big of a fan to remember their names. Blastoise, that's the name of it, Blastoise. And then there was Charizard on the Red, Pokemon Red. But yeah, I originally had a chance to get Pokemon Blue when I was a lot younger, probably in elementary school. My friend was like, "Hey, do you want Pokemon Blue?" I'm done with it. I don't really want to play it anymore. And I declined because it wasn't in color. It was a black and white game, or monochrome game. And I kind of regret that choice, but that's okay because I bought all of my Pokemon games that I have in my collection at a very low price. So, like maybe $15 to $20 per game, which now they go for like around $100 per game. There's Pokemon Blue. Next is Pokemon Crystal, and this will wrap up my Pokemon games in the collection. This is the same gen as Pokemon Gold and Silver. I'm not really sure what the difference is with this game, but it kind of has a different shape as well. It has kind of a clear cartridge to it as well. And not much to say about this game because I have not played it, but when you boot it up, it is kind of like a different game than Pokemon Gold and Silver. But there is Pokemon Crystal right there with a nice shiny label to it. Next is the final game in my Game Boy and Game Boy Color collection, and it is Grand Theft Auto. I have not played this game, but I am a big fan of the Grand Theft Auto series. San Andreas is in my top 10 video games of all time. And yeah, I just love the Grand Theft Auto series. They're just really good sandbox games where you can live a life of crime and do things that you can't really do in real life. Steal cars, run from the law, and yeah, just really, really good game series. Well, that'll do it for my Super Nintendo and Game Boy Color collection, so I'm going to go ahead and show you my additions to my Atari 2600, my NES, and my PlayStation 2 collections, and we are going to start off with Atari 2600. And the first one is Fishing Derby. This is an Activision game, and I actually think I showed this off in my Atari 2600 video, but this copy just has a label that is in such better condition. So I have replaced my old Fishing Derby cartridge with this one. This is an Activision game. And there is Fishing Derby. The next game is Centipede. I guess it's kind of like Millipede. I don't know. I have not played it. This is a silver Atari 2600 game. I believe these silver labels were in print after the 5200 or the whatever 50 some hundred and 70 some hundred came out, just to kind of differentiate between those different consoles. Next game is another Activision game. It is Checkers. Yeah, Checkers. Yeah, kind of like the board game Checkers. There we go. The final Atari 2600 edition I have is Yars's Revenge. And I did show off Yars's Revenge in my previous one, but this one is different because it is the Sears Telegames version label. And yeah, there we go. Okay, moving on to NES. I got several games. First one is Jeopardy 25th Anniversary Edition. There we go. Got some sticker residue up there that I need to get off. I don't really want to use Goo Gone because Gugon kind of leaves a mess, and I just really don't know how else to get this sticker off without just rubbing it a whole bunch with alcohol, but then that will kind of also dull the plastic a little bit. But there is Jeopardy 25th Anniversary Edition. The next one is Wizards and Warriors. Just based on the name, I thought this one would be a cool game to add to my collection. And also, I got the sequel to this game as well, which also was kind of the reason I bought this. So I also bought the sequel as well, which I will show off when I get to that one. But there is Wizards and Warriors. Next one is Jack Nicklaus Golf. It actually has like a very verbose name to it, and I can't really read the whole title with my sunglasses on. But this is a really cheap game that you can just find everywhere. But I typically like golf games. Golf is probably, I don't like sports games much at all, but golf games tend to be my favorite sports video games, so I just got this to fill out my collection a little bit more. Next game is Mock Rider with that nice Nintendo Entertainment System label to it. Action Series, whatever. I don't know if this is Action Series, whatever that says right there. Have not played it, but this looks to be, I know Mode 7 wasn't a thing on NES, but it kind of has that Rad Racer perspective, I think, where you can kind of see the track in front of you. Next is Mission Impossible, kind of like Mission Impossible for the Game Boy Color that I showed off just a little while ago. I guess this would be based on the movie. I didn't know the movie was actually that old. Maybe Mission Impossible was a book or something before it was a movie, and I just don't know, and this game is like based on that or something. Next one is Bases Loaded, and I think there's at least 3 Bases Loaded games. There's Bases Loaded 1, 2, and 3. This is the first game. The annoying thing about this cartridge is that they don't have the name of the game on the spine. They have the publisher/developer name, which I think is really stupid. The other thing is that this is, I think, Revision A. I think it says on the back here, Revision A, which made dumping this game kind of a little bit more difficult because I had to look up like the correct revision. And speaking of dumping this game, I did not actually successfully get to get this game dumped, so I don't know if this is actually a working cartridge or not. I have not put it into one of my NESs to see if it works. But yeah, otherwise it is a good condition cartridge. Bases Loaded 1 by Jailco, if that's how you even pronounce it. Next is Jeopardy. Just regular Jeopardy, not 25th Anniversary Edition like I showed off earlier. I actually don't really know. I actually really love game shows. I've never watched Jeopardy before, so I don't even know how the game goes. Next game is Karate Champ. I don't know anything about this game other than it's a karate game. But it has kind of a cool label to it. I do like the label to this game. Next game is Adventures of Dino Ricky. Or Riki. I don't know. This is a Hudson Soft game. And this is kind of a game you actually tend to hear a lot about. I don't know anything about it, but it seems to be one of the more popular NES games. I do like the label to it. Just based on the label, it does look like a lot of fun. I like dinosaurs and stuff, so I'll definitely have to play this game soon. Next game is Wizards and Warriors 2 Iron Sword. So kind of going back to Wizards and Warriors earlier, I saw both this game and the prequel or predecessor to it, so I got them. There is Wizards and Warriors 2 Iron Sword. The next game is another golf game. It is Bandai Golf. I have not played it. But I really love the label. I think the label looks really cool. This is actually Bandai Golf Challenge Pebble Beach. That's the full name of it. But cool label. Like I said, I don't really care much for sports games, but if there's one kind of sport that I would pick to play a video game of, it would be golf. Especially mini golf. Next game is John Elway's Quarterback. This is a football game. So, yeah, football, sports, whatever. I should say American football. Yeah. John Elway's Quarterback. Not much to say about it. So we'll move on. Next game is Shooting Range by Bandai, and I like how the Bandai games tend to be pretty consistent with their label design. I had to pick this up because it was a light gun game, and I love light gun games. I love Duck Hunt. I love Hogan's Alley, so just to have another light gun game, I just really wanted to add it to my collection. But I have not played it yet. So we'll move on. Then the final NES game is, not sure how to pronounce this, but it is, I'll try to right now, it's Astyanax. I like the name of it, and the label has a dragon on it, so I saw that and I was like, that game looks really cool. So I got it, and it's another A game to add to the collection. So yeah, there is Astyanax. That will do it for NES games. The final console that I have made additions to is PlayStation 2. First game I have here on the stack is The Golden Compass. This is a game by Sega, and this is a game based on a movie. This is a movie tie-in game, but I have never seen the movie. I know nothing about the movie. I know nothing about this game. It seems to kind of ride on, I would guess, the Chronicles of Narnia, Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. It just kind of reminds me of that. Here is the manual and the disc, complete in box. Next game is DT Racer. I have not played it. Disc and manual. Next game is Pinball Hall of Fame, the Gottlieb Collection. I think that's how it's pronounced. There is disc and manual. It's actually really interesting how big of a phenomenon pinball is. You wouldn't guess it if you're not really a pinball player, but it seems like there's a pinball game for like every single IP that exists. Like there's Star Wars pinball and stuff like that. And yeah, pinball's just a really big phenomenon where you have different pinball boards that tell stories and stuff, kind of like what I've heard, and yeah, really interesting. Have to give this game a try. Next game is Tokyo Extreme Racer Drift, another racing car game. There is disc and manual. I got all these PlayStation 2 games, by the way, at a thrift store for pretty cheap, so otherwise I probably wouldn't have picked up these games. But next game is, I think, Mark Davis Pro Bass Challenge. It's either Mark Davis or Mac Davis. But there is the disc and the manual. Fishing game. Kind of like sports. Kind of a sports game, but you're fishing, I guess. The next game is Suzuki TT Superbikes Real Road Racing. There is the disc and the manual. I really like the front art to this. I just love like simple designs where it has like the white bar up here with the text, and I don't know, I just really vibe with this design. There's actually another game called Suzuki TT Superbikes Real Road Racing Challenge. I don't know if that's a sequel to this game or what, but yeah, there's actually 2 games for the PlayStation 2 with very similar names, and this is one of those games. Next game is Motocross Mania 3. So it is an MX or motocross game. Disc and manual, it looks pretty wild. I think this is no, it's a 2K game. I thought it was a ZeniMax game, but no, this game looks really wild. Next game is what I was thinking of. It is Power Drome. This is a ZeniMax game. This is actually a kind of a remake to an old I think it was an arcade game back in like the 1980s with the same name. Other than that, I don't really know a whole bunch about this game at all, other than it is kind of a reboot or a remake of an older, possibly arcade game. Next game is Rebel Raiders Operation Nighthawk. Yeah, Operation Nighthawk. Kind of a jet fighter game, it looks like. There's the disc and manual. Don't really know anything about this game, but I get like Top Gun vibes from it. And the final game I'm going to show off in this video, another PlayStation 2 game. It is the History Channel Civil War, A Nation Divided. I have not played this game, but I believe one of my good friends grew up with this game. He is a big historian buff, actually a Civil War history buff, and he grew up with this game. He's actually a what's the term? He's kind of an archaeologist now, and he's done like pieces for the local museum here, and I'm pretty sure it was this game he grew up with. He grew up with some Civil War game, I don't know what, but yeah, I saw this game, just had to get it because I think it's a first-person shooter game, and you know, we don't get a whole lot of American Civil War games, so I just thought it would be an interesting addition to my collection. And with that, we have reached the end of the video. Thank you for watching. If you have played any of these games, tell me what you think about them in the comments below, and tell me your thoughts on the Super Nintendo and original Game Boy and Game Boy Color. And I'll be sure to read them, and yeah. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.